Get ready for truth and transparency from an ocean of liberal tears. Welcome to the Blue Shark Show with your host, Mike Lang.
Will Brain Pop go or will Brain Pop stay? GISD had a meeting. Barbara Harrington spoke. Dr. Paula McDonald spoke. And then the next day, Barbara Townsend spoke at the Hood County Republican Club and said that they were going to take away Brain Pop.
Barbara Harrington, when she was speaking at the school board meeting, she was saying, oh, hey, please, don't do this publicly. Please come to us with your concerns. Please, call us or email us, which is fine. She can say that. But at the end of the day, that has proven to be ineffective over time. A lot of concerns have come up over the last few years, and the only thing that this school board responds to, because they are so reactive instead of proactive, is social media stuff. We saw that last year with the SEL being put out by the Backlash counselor, and then now with this Brain Pop stuff and a few other things over the years.
Right, and I don't believe that being transparent about information going on in your community is a bad thing. That's a good thing. The more informed people are, the more informed parents are about the education and other curriculum materials that might be available to their children, the more involved they can be. And then they can contact their trustees or their teachers or principals or whoever they need to contact about an issue that may be there.
And like it or not, shining light on these issues does get parents involved, which I think everybody agrees is a good thing.
I don't write letters to the editors, and I don't have a blog, and so I'm using this format tonight to say, parents, if you see something that your children might be having to use in school that does not meet your standards, call the teacher, call the principal, call the superintendent. Otherwise, it's divisive. Rather than blame the board for something that you didn't like, or rather than put the blame on individuals, pick up the phone and see if you can correct the problem and not divide this community.
When we heard Barbara Harrington speak, she talked about call us, call the superintendent, we'll call somebody. Everything was a call to call somebody, and then they'll do it. And folks, how many times have you seen things get washed away and not even taken care of? So publicly, if you come out publicly on social media, things will get done. So this is not divisive, as she said. This is nothing to do with unity. This is what is exactly in your schools and being taught to your kids, or at least the opportunity for these programs to be taught to your kids.
I don't believe that trying to keep it behind closed doors is the answer here. Trying to keep it hush-hush so that the community doesn't find out about something is a little secretive, and you don't hide something unless you have something to hide. So the more involved, the more informed parents are about what's going on in school or what material their children may have access to is going to help parents be more diligent about paying attention to what their children are bringing home. It may not have ever occurred to them that they need to look at anything going on at school because everything's on the up and up until something like this comes out. Now we're going to have more eyes on it. More people will be held accountable, and little things like this won't slip through the cracks anymore.
It's not my job to look at every item of curriculum that is submitted. It is not this board's job. There are thousands, and that 75 we approved tonight. There are thousands of activities. Our curriculum department cannot look at each and every one of them. There is no way they can.
And one of the things Barbara Harrington brought up was that, this isn't our job. We shouldn't have to do this. We don't have time to watch thousands of videos. And I don't expect the trustees themselves to watch thousands of videos. I don't even expect the curriculum director to watch thousands of videos. But what I do expect them to do is put in at least a minimal effort. Take the, word Brain Pop, head over to Google and hit the news tab, and you'll see other communities that have gone through this same thing.
What you see from Barbara Harrington is a cultural aspect, because the culture is different between Barbara Harrington and Dr. Paula McDonald. Barbara Harrington seems to blame us or people putting this out, the information out, not going to them and try to be secretive.
Feel like people who have information or knowledge have power. Sometimes people without information or with false information misuse their power.
Dr. Paula McDonald is professional, and she says, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We will see what we can do about it," which is the proper way to handle it.
When it was brought to our attention just this past week, I was absolutely appalled and astounded. And that is not something that I'm okay with my child seeing now that he's in 4th grade. And so we did contact the superintendent. I did go into and look at who is this company, where are they, who owns it, because it's evident that they slid in some new videos.
Yeah, I found it interesting that some people weren't appreciative of the information that we found. This is like, hey, this is what's here. Parents, pay attention, speak up, call your principal, call your teacher, call your trustees, whoever you need to, let them know what's going on. You know, you would think that truth and transparency and getting information out there would be something that's applauded and not frowned upon.
But at least Barbara Harrington spoke up and gave her opinion on what's going on, as did Dr. Paula McDonald, but there was complete silence from everybody else, except for the superintendent, who's doing a fantastic job with all this.
Yes, he is.
Yep. After the school board meeting, the next day, the Republican Club had a meeting, and the Republican Club president, Sharon Sheelander, brought up Brain Pop to the crowd of over 100 plus people and said, hey, you know, we need to look out for Brain Pop, take a look at it, see what the kids are being taught. And Barbara Townsend, one of the trustees, was at the meeting, and she stood up in the meeting.
Because I heard that there was some part of our GISD curriculum that's called Brain Pops.
I'm Barbara Townsend. I'm on the Granbury Independent School District School Board. As far as Brain Pops is concerned, it was something that is a free offer to the school district. It was brought to our attention by Blue Shark that it did have in it this year for the first time particular pieces that we did not know were there. They are things that were available to the teachers if they wanted to use it. It was not mandatory. It was just something they could use. Since we found out about this, it will no longer be used in Granbury High.
Yeah, and I do appreciate, and I think we appreciate Barbara Townsend saying all that in the middle of the Republican Club meeting. She said that the ISD was not going to be using Brain Pop anymore, and the crowd gave a thunderous applause, which I think shows, you know, a lot of how at least the conservatives in town feel about this. And my question is to the district and to the trustees, what parts of Brain Pop are they going to remove, and how are they going to do it? Are they going to limit access to the BLM and LGBT lessons only? Are they going to, you know, limit their internet to where you can't get on brainpop.com at all? Are they just going to put out in a memo, hey, teachers, don't use these lessons? You know, what is the concrete plan? While it's great to say we're not going to use it, how is that going to be implemented? And are you going to do so publicly or continue to try and just keep all this quiet and hope that it goes away?
And I think that the teachers deserve to know why and how this all came about. The public deserves to know why and how it all came about. We had people commenting on social media, teachers saying that you know, this was all about shock and awe. Well, most definitely this shocked a lot of people that this was even in Granbury School or available to Granbury ISD and probably other ISDs in Hood County. And the awe part, the wow part is, yeah, wow, I can't believe this has gone this far. So yes, it is a shock and awe situation. And I think the teachers at some point have to look and see where Brain Pop, the CEO of Brain Pop, the new one, Scott Kirkpatrick, and the letter he wrote as a Brain Pop representative and the CEO of Brain Pop. Solidarity and support of our community, which is great. You know, support of our community, support of the kids, that's great. But the agenda here by the CEO, he goes on to write things like, we will continue to work in partnership with you every day to enable your kids to create a braver, more understanding, and equitable future. That equitable Marxist CRT thought from the CEO of Brain Pop. So all the teachers out there, look and see where they're going with this entire program. And the letter goes on to say, we stand in solidarity with the black community in declaring that Black Lives Matter. So the title of this, Solidarity and Support of Our Community, is actually Solidarity for the Black Lives Matters movement, not for everybody. So this is where your Brain Pop CEO is headed, whether it's the good programs, the social programs. This is all-encompassing where it's going. So to the teachers, do you want this in your classroom? Do you want to teach this? Do you want to teach part of this? That's what we need to know from the trustees. What are we going to get?
Right. And if you look further on, if you go to the brainpopabout.com, part of the website, you can see the different advisors that contribute to the curriculum and lessons that BrainPop uses. And if you go to the social studies advisor, that's where you're going to see a lot of this, Marxist CRT ideology coming from. If you look at her bio in there, she's part of the Teaching Tolerance. She talks about anti-bias. She talks about equity, justice, all of these words that sound benign on the surface, but are all buzzwords for this critical race theory, Black Lives Matter movement ideology that we see creeping in across the nation in our schools. And if you look in there, she also talks about identity. So even though some of the lessons in science may be okay now, and maybe even in English, if we're going to be looking at this identity issue, we're going to have to be vigilant about looking for things when they start talking about gender and the different genders that are out there. And in English lessons, the pronouns and how you address people, and biology. So some of these things may be okay right now, but that doesn't mean this agenda isn't going to start creeping into those other lessons as well.
And I think it's interesting that the left always does this. They wrap whatever they want in the nicest of terms. How can you say you're against something like Black Lives Matter? How can you say you are against something like equity? Doesn't that sound good? It kind of sounds like equality, right? And I think we all want equality. We're all treated the same. Nobody gets special privileges. And, they frame it in a way to where, again, if you oppose any of this, you're a jerk.
Right. And then there comes the solidarity. It's solidarity as long as you agree with what we're trying to push here.
And that pushes back to the unity, the solidarity, unity in the community. Can't we all get along? And it's all based upon their predication of what we can get along with. And if you don't agree with it, if you have conservative values, then you're out the window. Sorry. That's just the way it is, and that's the way it's becoming.
Again, just be vigilant about the materials that your children have access to. It's not maybe something that's being actively taught in the schools here in Granbury, but if your children have access to it, if your teachers have access to it, is something that could be taught. And that alone means we need to have more eyes on it.
The voters deserve to know how every elected official on the GISD school board, every trustee, stands on this issue. I think it would be a great idea for all of them to make known, hey, I think that this is okay, or I think that this is not okay. Here's what we are going to do about it. And when I see a candidate that just stays quiet and, aligns himself with people on the left, I really wonder if they have our best interest at heart.
You have the culture of keeping things hidden, keeping things behind closed doors, not being transparent. And you look at words like divisiveness. You're dividing this community. You're separating things. Well, it's time, because we've had 20, 30 years of indoctrination. And if you're on the side of a conservative, moral, Christian values, the divisiveness is not from here. It's from the left wanting the Marxist socialist ideas. So is there going to be a division with me personally and maybe the people up here? Speaking for myself, there will be a division because I will stand for conservative moral values. whether it's in the school board, the city council, or the commissioner's court, anything run with our tax dollars that has to do with elected officials. So yes, if you say there's a divided community that's not united, you guys are more than happy to come on board with the conservative, moral, Christian values, or you can stand on the Marxist side. So there could be a split, but you're more than welcome to come on board. Thanks again. Shark Show out.